Assalamualaikum dan selamat sejahtera. Anda bersama saya Nabilah Khaleeda dan ini Niaga AWANI. Kita mulakan dengan perkembangan berikut. Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim berkata beberapa kerjasama yang dibincangkan dalam lawatan rasmi pertamanya ke Bahrain termasuk berkaitan teknologi kewangan dijangka dimetrai sebelum Mei ini. Beliau berkata tumpuan diberikan antaranya kepada teknologi kewangan Islam yang dipersetujui kedua-dua pihak perlu dibangunkan dengan beberapa instrumen canggih.
Ujar beliau selama ini Malaysia hanya menciplak cadangan-cadangan instrumen bank konvensional. Bagaimanapun Malaysia tegasnya perlu kehadapan melalui penyelidikan teliti, memahami tentang keperluan peraturan syariah dan maqasid syariah dan menjamin supaya institusi itu dapat menjadi lebih kukuh. Beliau berkata demikian dalam sidang media selepas mengakhiri lawatan rasmi ke Bahrain atas jemputan Putera Mahkota yang juga Perdana Menteri Bahrain Salman Hamad Al Khalifa. Anwar yang juga Menteri Kewangan berkata tumpuan turut diberikan terhadap bidang pendidikan yang menjadi antara prasyarat bagi negara untuk meningkatkan keupayaan dalam bidang teknologi kewangan, digital dan peralihan tenaga. Justru katanya kedua-dua negara memutuskan bidang penyelidikan dan pendidikan perlu diberi keutamaan. Beliau percaya teknologi kewangan Islam dan pendidikan antara perkara yang boleh dilaksanakan dua negara tersebut dalam masa singkat. Ketika lawatan itu, Anwar turut menghadap Putera Mahkota Bahrain dan Raja Bahrain, Raja Hamad Isa Al Khalifa. Beliau turut sempat berbual panjang dengan Putera Salman selain mesyuarat dua hala diikuti majlis santapan. Pertemuan itu dimanfaat kedua-dua pemimpin untuk berbincang berkenaan bidang teknologi kewangan fintech melalui kerjasama bank, industri dan pelaburan, bidang teknologi maklumat, digitalisasi, pelancongan, kesaling hubungan, keterjaminan makanan, tenaga dan tenaga boleh baharu serta pendidikan. Beliau berkata Malaysia juga berhasrat mempelajari usaha Lembaga Pembangunan Ekonomi Bahrain (EDB) yang mengubah wajah Bahrain sehingga menjadi pusat kewangan serantau. Anwar juga berkata EDB juga sedia untuk menjadi pemudah cara kepada mana-mana syarikat Malaysia untuk melabur di negara itu serta menjadi penghubung dengan negara-negara Timur Tengah. Malah mereka turut membincangkan soal mata wang kripto dengan Malaysia meminta untuk mendengar pengalaman Bahrain dalam mengendalikan perkara itu. Ketika menghadap Raja Hamad di Istana Sahir, Anwar berkata Raja Bahrain menzahirkan rasa ambil berat terhadap usaha meningkatkan kerjasama dua hala antara Malaysia dan negara Asia Barat diteruskan dalam semua bidang yang perlu. Baginda juga menyokong langkah diambil Malaysia termasuk dalam menganjurkan sidang kemuncak ASEAN Majlis Kerjasama Teluk GCC serta sidang kemuncak ASEAN GCC campur China akhir Mei nanti.
Produktiviti Malaysia telah menunjukkan pertumbuhan bagaimanapun tidak cukup pantas, terutamanya jika dibandingkan dengan negara lain yang pernah berada pada kedudukan sama. Itu pandangan Menteri Pelaburan, Perdagangan dan Industri Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Abdul Aziz terhadap produktiviti Malaysia ketika ini. Memberi contoh Malaysia dan Korea Selatan, Tengku Zafrul berkata, kedua-duanya beralih kepada negara berpendapatan sederhana daripada negara berpendapatan rendah dengan masing-masing mempunyai aspirasi untuk mencapai status berpendapatan tinggi. Pada tahun 1970-an, kedua-dua negara sangat bergantung kepada pertanian dan sumber asli. Antara 1996 dan 2022, tahap produktiviti Korea Selatan meningkat pada kadar purata tahunan 2.9%, manakala produktiviti Malaysia naik pada kadar 1.6% setahun. Tengku Zafrul berkata walaupun pertumbuhan stabil Malaysia adalah memuaskan, lebih banyak lagi boleh dilakukan susulan asas kukuh dibina melalui inisiatif pembaharuan industri di bawah Pelan Induk Perindustrian Baharu 2030 NIP 2030 dan langkah dasar lain di bawah Kementerian Pelaburan, Perdagangan dan Industri MITI. Semua inisiatif ini katanya telah menarik aliran masuk pelaburan asing berkualiti tinggi yang stabil, terutamanya dalam semikonduktor, aeroangkasa dan ekonomi digital. Menerusi pelaburan asing ini, mereka menyasarkan untuk memastikan pemindahan teknologi dalam bidang seperti automasi, robotik dan kecerdasan buatan AI akan membina pangkalan industri mampan dan berdaya tahan. Tengku Zafrul berkata Malaysia mesti bertindak lebih tangkas dan melaksanakan inisiatif perindustriannya tanpa berlengah-lengah. Tegasnya dasar sahaja tidak mencukupi. Ia mesti dipadankan dengan pelaksanaan berdisiplin dan melibatkan semua pihak dari seluruh negara. Salah satu faktor kejayaan utama Korea Selatan ialah pelaburannya dalam penyelidikan dan pembangunan R&D. Pelaburan R&D Korea Selatan menyumbang lebih 4.0% daripada keluaran dalam negara kasar KDNK, kebanyakannya didorong oleh sektor swasta, manakala R&D Malaysia hanya pada 1.0%, kebanyakannya dipacu oleh inisiatif kerajaan. Tengku Zafrul berkata demikian dalam ucapannya sebelum menyaksikan majlis menandatangani Memorandum Persefahaman MOU antara Perbadanan Produktiviti Malaysia MPC dan Siemens Malaysia Senin Berhad. Seterusnya beliau melancarkan Siemens Accelerator Experience Centre di Ibu Negara pada Khamis. Baik, kita nak recap pengumuman KDNK yang baru diumumkan oleh Jabatan Perangkaan Malaysia DOSM dan juga Bank Negara Malaysia Jumaat minggu lalu. Jadi bersedia di talian adalah Abdul Muiz Murhalim, pakar ekonomi MIDF Research. Assalamualaikum Muiz. Mungkin pertama sekali kalau kita lihat pertumbuhan KDNK suku keempat tahun lalu pada kadar 5.0% adalah lebih baik daripada anggaran awal 4.8%. Dan walaupun ianya prestasi yang masih memberangsangkan, namun KDNK negara mencatatkan penurunan 1.8% kalau kita bandingkan dengan suku sebelumnya. Jadi kalau boleh Muiz kongsikan, adakah ini menunjukkan momentum ekonomi mula perlahan?
Okey, Salam. Terima kasih kerana menjemput saya. Kalau kita lihat dari segi pertumbuhan pada suku keempat tahun lalu, sebenarnya seperti yang dinyatakan tadi adalah sedikit lebih tinggi berbanding 4.8% anggaran awal, kerana yang mencatat KDNK negara meningkat sebanyak 5% berbanding suku keempat 2023. Ini menunjukkan peningkatan yang masih dikira sihat kerana biasanya ekonomi Malaysia bertumbuh sekitar 4 ke 5%. Jadi pada pertumbuhan 5% ini masih amat memberangsangkan. Memang betul bila kita lihat dari segi pertumbuhan suku ke suku, KDNK negara menguncuk sebanyak 1.8% berbanding suku ketiga tahun lalu. Dan kita dapati antara perkara yang menyebabkan penurunan ini adalah disebabkan pertumbuhan ekonomi domestik yang dilihat sedikit lebih perlahan. Pada saya masih terlalu awal untuk kita menentukan momentum ekonomi semakin perlahan, kerana kita dapati sebenarnya daripada peningkatan 5% ekonomi negara, 3 mata peratusan ataupun 60% itu masih disokong oleh peningkatan daripada ekonomi domestik. Dan bagi saya fundamental ekonomi juga nampak masih dikira baik kerana pasaran buruh contohnya masih sihat dan kadar pengangguran terus menurun kepada sekitar 3.1-3.2%, dan ini menunjukkan keadaan ekonomi domestik masih berada pada keadaan yang baik. Bagi saya apa yang lebih perlu diberi perhatian ialah perkembangan di luar negara, kerana kita lebih banyak tumpuan sekarang ini lebih tertumpu kepada kesan perang dagangan yang nampaknya bermula lebih awal daripada jangkaan, berikutan tindakan Amerika Syarikat menaikkan tarif import yang lebih tinggi.
Jadi berdasarkan Muiz, prospek ekonomi kita bergerak dalam aliran yang positif namun dari sedikit perlahan. Dan kita dapati juga prestasi ekspor juga meningkat dengan kadar yang amat perlahan, iaitu sekadar 0.3% pada bulan Januari 2025, jauh lebih rendah berbanding sebelumnya. Jadi apa komen Muiz berkenaan perkara ini? Adakah ini gambaran awal prestasi dagangan akan bergerak lebih lemah tahun ini atau bagaimana?
Memang bila kita ambil kira keadaan perdagangan ataupun perang dagangan yang mungkin akan berlaku semula, melihat kepada tindakan yang dibuat oleh Amerika Syarikat, kita memang secara umum menjangkakan pertumbuhan perdagangan luar mungkin akan lebih perlahan. Namun memang betul bila kita lihat dari segi pertumbuhan pada bulan Januari ini jauh lebih perlahan, itu sebanyak 0.3% berbanding hampir 17% pada bulan Disember. Tapi bila kita lihat dua perkara mungkin boleh menjadi penjelasan kepada keadaan ini. Pertamanya ialah kesan daripada cuti tahun baru Cina yang menyebabkan ekspor ke China khususnya adalah lebih perlahan. Jadi ini berkait dengan isu perubahan musim. Dan faktor kedua pada saya boleh kita nyatakan ketengahkan ialah mengenai sebenarnya berlaku lonjakan penghantaran pada bulan Disember. Mungkin ini adalah berlaku disebabkan syarikat-syarikat mula bimbang dengan kemungkinan berlakunya perang dagangan bisa berikutan pemilihan Donald Trump sebagai Presiden Amerika Syarikat. Dan kita memang dapati sebenarnya terdapat penurunan yang lebih besar berlaku pada ekspor berikutan lonjakan yang berlaku pada bulan Disember dan kesan perubahan musim ini. Namun dari segi produk, bila kita lihat sebenarnya pertumbuhan elektronik dan ekspor elektronik dan elektrik masih mencatat pertumbuhan 2 angka, yang mana ianya terus menunjukkan aliran sihat kepada pasaran Amerika Syarikat. Namun kelemahan yang berlaku pada bulan Januari kalau dari segi produk ialah disebabkan penurunan ekspor komoditi seperti petroleum. Dan pada saya, kalau kita lihat dari segi keadaan ekspor ENE yang masih memberangsangkan ini, kita dapati pertumbuhan barangan buatan ini masih terus menjadi antara punca sokongan utama pada pertumbuhan ekspor negara. Cuma kita perlu memberi lebih fokus bagaimana kesan tarif ini mungkin akan menyebabkan syarikat mula memperlahankan pembelian dan juga pengeluaran di masa akan datang.
Muiz, masih berkenaan dengan kesan kenaikan tarif import oleh Donald Trump ini, di mana beliau juga ada menyatakan rancangan untuk mengenakan tarif lebih tinggi ke atas microchip serta automotif dan juga farmaceutical. Dan sekiranya ini menyebabkan kejatuhan ekspor ke Amerika Syarikat, apa anggaran Muiz kesannya terhadap pertumbuhan ekonomi negara pada ketika ini?
Kalau kita melihat dari segi kesan penurunan ekspor, hanya penurunan ekspor, kalau kita dapati saiz ekspor ke Amerika Syarikat mengambil kira jumlah sekitar 13.5% daripada jumlah ekspor yang Malaysia telah hantar pada tahun lalu. Dan katalah ekspor ke Amerika Syarikat ini menurun sekitar 10%, kita mungkin akan melihat penurunan ekspor sekitar 1.3%. Dan ianya boleh memberi kesan penurunan kepada ekonomi negara sebanyak 1%. Dan kalau kita lihat kemungkinan besar pertumbuhan ekspor yang turut sama menurun ke negara serantau seperti Singapura, Taiwan, Korea Selatan yang turut sama terlibat dalam rantaian pengeluaran serantau, ada kemungkinan ekspor mungkin menurun lebih daripada 5% dan ini memberi kesan yang lebih besar kepada ekonomi negara, yang mana pertumbuhan ekonomi ataupun KDNK boleh menurun sebanyak sekitar 45%. Namun bila kita ambil kira kemungkinan penurunan import yang mana syarikat mungkin turut sama akan mengurangkan pembelian barangan E&E contohnya, kesan kepada pertumbuhan ekonomi negara mungkin tidaklah segitu besar, mungkin sekitar 1.2%. Dalam kata lain, pertumbuhan ekonomi negara mungkin mampu dapat dikekalkan sekitar 3% seperti yang kita lihat pada tahun 2023 apabila ekspor menurun sekitar 8% dan turut sama import mencatatkan penurunan sekitar 64% dan ekonomi negara masih mampu berkembang sekitar 3.6%. Dalam kata lain, pada tahun 2023 itu kekuatan ekonomi domestik masih memberi sokongan kepada pertumbuhan ekonomi negara.
Berkait dengan perbincangan mengenai kenaikan tarif import Amerika Syarikat ini juga, bagaimana bacaan Muiz tentang pergerakan inflasi Malaysia kalau kita mengambil kira kemungkinan keadaan permintaan global yang mungkin terjejas akibat kos import yang lebih mahal. Jadi adakah inflasi negara akan turut sama meningkat dan mungkin sedikit unjuran ataupun jangkaan yang akan diumumkan pada 12 hari nanti berkenaan dengan inflasi Januari 2025 tahun ini?
Bagi inflasi bulan Januari mungkin akan stabil sekitar 1.7%. Satu sudut kita dapati tekanan berlaku daripada kenaikan inflasi harga barang makanan. Kerana contohnya harga sayur meningkat disebabkan pengeluaran yang terjejas oleh musim tengkujuh dan juga banjir yang berlaku di beberapa kawasan. Cuma kalau kita lihat dari segi kesan tarif ini sebenarnya, kita dapati ada kemungkinan tekanan harga boleh jadi adalah lebih rendah. Kerana contohnya lambakan bagi barangan besi disebabkan mereka mengenakan tarif import sebanyak 25% kepada kesemua import barangan besi. Ianya boleh menyebabkan berlakunya lambakan di seluruh dunia dan ini menyebabkan ada kemungkinan harga barangan besi itu akan lebih rendah dan menyebabkan kos untuk pengeluaran untuk juga dapat diturunkan. Oleh sebab itu, tekanan inflasi walaupun di Amerika mungkin akan menaik, tetapi bagi negara lain termasuk Malaysia, kita mungkin dapat melihat kesan penurunan harga komoditi ini mungkin sedikit sebanyak dapat mengurangkan tekanan inflasi dalam negara.
Mungkin yang terakhirlah Muiz, berbakikan dalam lebih kurang 1 minit. Bagaimana Muiz menjagakan adakah Malaysia mampu menangani kelembapan perdagangan luar ini dan mungkin apa perubahan dan strategi yang boleh Malaysia gerakkan bagi meminimumkan impak negatif ke atas ekonomi negara?
Bila kita lihat dari segi tindakan kerajaan untuk menggalakkan hubungan perdagangan lebih baik dengan negara lain seperti ASEAN dan juga blok negara utama seperti BRICS, bagi saya ini adalah satu tindakan yang baik kerana kita ingin membuka lebih banyak peluang pasaran ekspor berbanding kebergantungan yang lebih terlalu tinggi kepada pasaran tradisional seperti Amerika Syarikat. Selain itu, pada saya rundingan dan perbincangan boleh dibuat bagi mengurangkan ataupun mencari peluang sekiranya barangan yang dibuat di Malaysia dapat dikecualikan daripada tarif yang tinggi. Kerana sebahagian daripada barangan E&E ataupun mesin-mesin yang dibuat di Malaysia ini adalah dikeluarkan oleh syarikat-syarikat Amerika yang beroperasi di sini. Dan saya beramat berharap sekiranya terdapat cara yang lebih baik untuk negosiasi ini dapat dilakukan bagi memastikan mereka tidak mengalami kesan besar daripada tekanan perang dagangan yang sedang berlaku.
Baik, jangkaannya adalah sekitar 1.7% dan kekal stabil untuk inflasi Januari 2025. Sama-sama kita nantikan pengumumannya pada jam 12.30 hari nanti. Jadi terima kasih diucapkan kepada Abdul Muiz Murhalim, pakar ekonomi MIDF Research. UEM Sunrise Berhad mencatatkan prestasi kukuh apabila mencapai jualan sebanyak 1.418 bilion ringgit sekaligus melebihi sasaran 1 bilion ringgit yang ditetapkan pada tahun kewangan berakhir 31 Disember 2024. Menurut kenyataan pemaju hartanah itu, pertumbuhan positif itu malah melepasi sasaran tempoh setahun penuh untuk kedua-dua jualan dan pelancaran nilai pembangunan kasar GDV yang dilancarkan mencecah 904 juta ringgit sekaligus mengatasi sasaran 800 juta ringgit. SolarVest Holdings Berhad mencatatkan peningkatan untung bersih sebanyak 35% kepada 14.4 juta ringgit pada suku ketiga berakhir 31 Disember 2024 berbanding 10.7 juta ringgit pada tahun lalu dipacu kemajuan beberapa projek solar di bawah program kuasa hijau korporat CGPP. Kumpulan itu berkata hasil bagi tempoh itu juga meningkat 20.4% kepada 135.4 juta ringgit berbanding 112.4 juta ringgit pada suku tahun sama tahun lalu. Peningkatan itu didorong margin yang lebih baik dalam segmen perniagaan komersial dan perindustrian yang mendapat manfaat daripada harga panel solar yang lebih rendah bersama-sama dengan sumbangan jualan elektrik daripada 3 loji LSS4 yang dimilikinya. Syarikat Batik Air berhasrat meningkatkan kedudukan Malaysia sebagai destinasi global utama untuk pesakit antarabangsa datang dan memperkasakan sektor pelancongan penjagaan kesihatan menerusi rangkaian penerbangan serantaunya. Ketua Pegawai Eksekutifnya Datuk Chandran Ramamuti menyatakan keyakinan itu bakal mengukuhkan reputasi Malaysia sebagai hub pelancongan penjagaan kesihatan global dengan memastikan pesakit sebagai penumpangnya menikmati perjalanan udara yang lancar. Laporan penuh di saluran 501 dan astroawani.com serta theganus.com. Baik, bertemu kembali dalam Niaga AWANI. Kita akan teruskan dengan satu data dan juga statistik yang disediakan oleh Ipsos Malaysia di mana ia adalah berkenaan dengan indeks keyakinan pengguna untuk Januari tahun 2025. Dan data tinjauan Ipsos ini mendapati bahawa indeks keyakinan pengguna Malaysia pada Januari 2025 melonjak sebanyak 4% kalau kita berbandingkan dengan tahun yang lalu. Dan pertumbuhan positif ekonomi Malaysia dan inflasi yang stabil pada 2024 menyumbang kepada jangkaan pengguna yang menggalakkan. Kalau kita dapat lihat di sini, lebih separuh rakyat Malaysia iaitu 55% mempunyai tahap keyakinan yang tinggi iaitu 55% kalau kita bandingkan dengan negara-negara lain. Kita ada juga negara dari Asia Tenggara seperti Indonesia, Singapura dan juga Thailand yang turut menunjukkan prestasi melebihi separuh. Kalau kita nak bandingkan dengan purata global hanyalah sekitar 49%. Dan negara-negara di Asia Tenggara ini melebihi daripada Asia Timur iaitu Jepun dan Korea Selatan yang mencatatkan masing-masing hanya 38% dan juga 36% untuk Jepun dan Korea Selatan. Ini adalah indeks keyakinan pengguna antara negara-negara di Asia Tenggara dan juga Asia Timur. Kalau kita nak bandingkan perubahan, kalau kita nak saksikan perubahan indeks itu antara bulan ke bulan dan juga tahun ke tahun. Kalau kita dapat saksikan di sini antara bulan ke bulan, antara Disember 2024 memasuki Januari 2025, meningkat sebanyak 2% untuk perubahan dalam sebulan, namun peningkatan ataupun perbandingan antara ke tahun adalah sebanyak 4% kalau kita boleh tunjukkan di sini. Ini adalah indeks negara khususnya melipasi purata global dan sebagainya, dan itu adalah berkenaan perbandingan antara bulan ke bulan dan juga tahun ke tahun. Kalau kita nak tunjukkan juga perubahan komponen indeks keyakinan pengguna dalam masa setahun, Januari 2025 tahun ini berbanding dengan setahun yang lalu, kalau kita dapat lihat di sini, puratanya untuk tahun 2025 melepasi tahap separuh, lebih 50%. Mereka yakin dengan keterjaminan pekerjaan, mereka yakin untuk melabur pada masa hadapan dan juga mereka selesa melakukan pembelian isi rumah. Namun untuk keselesaan melakukan pembelian utama, kita dapat saksikan nilainya adalah hanya 46%, di bawah separuh. Kalau kita tengokkan antara pada setahun yang lalu lebih rendah 40%. Ini akan kita bincangkan sebentar lagi bersama dengan pakar. Namun kita dapat saksikan perubahan ataupun pergerakan dari tahun ke tahun itu adalah dari kadar 4% hinggalah 6%, dan ini adalah menunjukkan peningkatan yang positif untuk keyakinan pengguna di Malaysia. Ini sekitar apa yang dapat kita kongsikan dalam indeks keyakinan pengguna pada Januari 2025 seperti yang disediakan oleh Ipsos sendiri, dan kita akan berbincang lebih lanjut bersama pakar, iaitu kita bersama dengan Profesor Madya Dr. Aimi Zulhazmi Abdul Rashid, penganalisis ekonomi Uni KL Business School. Assalamualaikum Prof. Mungkin pertama sekali kalau kita lihat seperti yang saya bincangkan tadi, lebih separuh daripada pengguna warga negara Malaysia optimis dengan ekonomi. Kalau kita lihat, Asia Tenggara mencatatkan tahap keyakinan pengguna lebih tinggi daripada purata global, dan Indonesia menyelah dengan tahap keyakinan yang tertinggi, diikuti oleh Singapura, Malaysia dan juga Thailand. Mungkin Prof boleh kongsikan ataupun beri penerangan, adakah peningkatan keyakinan ini merupakan cerminan kepada pengukuhan ekonomi negara atau lebih kepada keyakinan psikologi pengguna yang mungkin tidak selari dengan realiti ekonomi, Prof?
Baik, Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi semua. Okey, ini adalah satu data yang menarik. Kerana indeks keyakinan pengguna Malaysia ini menunjukkan betapa ekonomi domestik itu sebenarnya memberi keyakinan kepada rakyat Malaysia. Jadi kalau kita lihat dari aspek ini, ya, orang ramai mempunyai keyakinan yang tinggi mungkin pada tahun 2023, walaupun KDNK ini lebih perlahan, 3.6% pada tahun 15%, mereka merasakan ekonomi domestik mereka itu mereka dari tahap membeli barang, berbelanja, walaupun ada sedikit tekanan, tekanan iaitu daripada kos sara hidup, tetapi mereka masih juga boleh mencari peluang pekerjaan baru, menambahkan pendapatan mereka. Jadi kalau Nabilah, kalau kita ada data-data proses ekonomi keseluruhannya, kalau kita katakan ini psikologi ataupun ini selari dengan realiti sebenar, kalau kita ada data atau fakta seperti KDNK negara 51%, kadar inflasi terkawal sebanyak 1.8% dan mungkin lebih rendah pada bulan ini, kadar pengangguran yang rendah 3% dan peluang pekerjaan yang banyak, dan juga diwawarkan tentang pelbagai pelaburan FDI yang tinggi, terutamanya dari segi aspek pusat data yang masuk ke Malaysia. Jadi inilah memberikan persepsi ataupun kos sara hidup yang tinggi, sebenarnya tidaklah begitu membebankan kepada rakyat Malaysia.
Jadi peningkatan antara tahun ke tahun, kalau kita boleh tunjukkan sini, peningkatan sebanyak 4% menunjukkan bahawa pengguna lebih selesa dengan kedudukan kewangan peribadi mereka dan ia menyumbang kepada peningkatan perbelanjaan pengguna. Jadi adakah kita akan saksikan kuasa beli pengguna yang lebih tinggi tahun ini, Prof? Kalau kita lihat perbelanjaan domestik nampaknya memberangsangkan juga, dan lagi-lagi gaji penjawat awam juga telah dimula dinaikkan. Jadi pada pandangan Prof berkenaan perkara ini?
Baik, satu soalan yang baik, kerana apa yang dikatakan dari segi momentum ekonomi ini, dia bukan, saya selalu katakan momentum ekonomi ini bukan seperti switch lampu kita boleh tutup on off bila masa, dia memerlukan momentum, dan apabila kita ada momentum daripada tahun 2023, 2024 dan saya percaya pada tahun 2025 kuasa beli pengguna akan terus bertahan, dan mungkin mereka sedikit berhati-hati dengan terutamanya apa yang akan datang, iaitu apabila kerajaan melaksanakan subsidi bersasar untuk RON 95. Jadi kita akan melihat ini ada beberapa perubahan yang besar kepada ekonomi negara. Namun begitu, dasar-dasar lain seperti dasar monetary, iaitu seperti OPR yang dikekalkan oleh Bank Negara pada 3%, tetap memberikan kestabilan pada ekonomi sendiri. Orang boleh membeli kereta, orang boleh beli rumah ataupun upgrade ke rumah yang baru, upgrade ke kereta yang baru. Jadi kita juga melihat daripada terutamanya nak masuk hari perayaan ni, selepas hari raya Cina dan pada sekarang ini kita akan dapat umat Islam akan berpuasa dan seterusnya menyambut hari raya. Kita akan melihat berapa sekarang ni pun dah begitu aktif, ya, bukan hanya di mall-mall, di shopping kompleks, tetapi juga kalau kita melihat di atas platform social media dan sebagainya, memang begitu sudah pun berjalan promosi hari raya sebenarnya. Jadi kebimbangan tentang kuasa beli pengguna itu kata selagi boleh, ya, mereka akan tetap berbelanja semampu mereka lah, Nabilah.
Tapi kalau kita lihat komponen indeks keyakinan pengguna dalam masa setahun, selesa melakukan pembelian utama, ia menunjukkan ia berada di bawah 50% walaupun ia menunjukkan peningkatan 6% di sini. Kalau kita nak tahu juga Prof, kalau boleh Prof kongsikan, adakah masih wujud kebimbangan tertentu dalam trend perbelanjaan pengguna yang menyebabkan kurang daripada separuh ini, dan atau boleh saya sifatkan pengguna lebih berhati-hati dalam berbelanja? Prof.
Saya poin yang kedua betul. Itu pengguna sebenarnya tetap berhati-hati walaupun mereka punya keupayaan untuk berbelanja, tetapi mereka sebenarnya berhati-hati kerana mereka tahu kebanyakan benda yang mereka nikmati di Malaysia ini juga diimport, ya, terutamanya seperti barang makanan. Dan kita mengimport lebih daripada 80 bilion ringgit barang makanan, ya, daripada daging, bawang dan sebagainya daripada luar negara. Mereka percaya bahawa kenaikan kos sara hidup baru-baru ini juga disebabkan oleh kenaikan import, inflasi yang diimport daripada luar. Jadi mereka tetap berhati-hati dengan perbelanjaan, utamanya dari segi keperluan keluarga. Dan juga kita melihat bahawa terutamanya pada bulan Februari dan bulan Mac ni, apabila berlangsungnya anak masuk sekolah, pada masa yang sama juga mereka nak menyambut perayaan Hari Raya Cina dan Hari Aidilfitri nanti. Betapa mereka sekarang rakyat Malaysia bagi saya lebih pandai menguruskan kewangan mereka dengan secara lebih berhemah. Tapi bagaimanapun mereka tetap berhati-hati kerana kemungkinan itu ada. Mereka kata apa nak jadi bila harga minyak naik nanti. Jadi itu yang kita perlu lihat dari aspek.
Prof, walaupun pengguna dalam sentimen berhati-hati, kalau kita lihat data dan juga statistik daripada Ipsos ini menunjukkan semuanya positif. Namun kita nak tahu juga apa cabaran yang menanti pada masa hadapan. Sebab kita tahu kerajaan akan laksanakan penyasaran subsidi RON 95 dan ditambah pula ketidaktentuan dalam tarif oleh pentadbiran Donald Trump. Jadi adakah ini akan menghambat momentum positif keyakinan rakyat Malaysia bergerak ke hadapan dan juga dalam jangka masa panjang?
Baik, pada yang masa ini yang kita boleh katakan seperti yang dua faktor yang saya telah masukkan tadi. Pertama adalah dari segi aspek yang saya katakan subsidi bersasar akan dilaksanakan pada tahun ini. Itu pertama. Kedua, peningkatan kos barangan yang diimport atau barang makanan yang diimport daripada luar. Dan ketiga, ketidaktentuan ekonomi yang disebabkan seperti the Trump tarif kita katakan, ya, mungkin akan menyekat pelbagai import daripada Malaysia seperti semiconductor. Adakah ini akan memberikan kesan kepada ekspor Malaysia? Dan kita juga telah melihat pada bulan Januari, data pada bulan Januari di mana lebihan dagangan Malaysia telah merosot, tetap positif, telah merosot kepada 3.6 bilion, antara yang terendah dalam beberapa bulan yang lalu. Dan ekspor kita menurun, import kita terus mendaki tetapi terkawal. Jadi ada sedikit poin dekat sini di mana rakyat dia yakin dengan ekonomi domestik, dan kita sebagai rakyat Malaysia juga harus menyokong ekonomi domestik kita. Pada masa yang sama kita juga harus berhati-hati dengan pelbagai pergolakan di luar sana, geopolitik, sebagai sebuah negara yang mengamalkan ekonomi terbuka. Sebarang kenaikan, ya, seperti kenaikan harga jagung, kenaikan harga gandum, memberikan kesan kepada harga ayam, memberikan kesan kepada roti canai yang kita makan.
Kalau kita saksikan perbelanjaan pengguna yang meningkat ni, tetap juga mereka berdepan dengan cabaran seperti pertumbuhan gaji yang perlahan dan juga kos sara hidup yang semakin memuncak, yang makin tinggi. Jadi bagaimana kita boleh pastikan peningkatan keyakinan ini dalam data tadi, kalau kita boleh terjemahkan kepada kesejahteraan ekonomi jangka panjang, dan mungkin apakah dasar atau strategi yang boleh membantu rakyat Malaysia mengekalkan daya tahan kewangan mereka dalam menghadapi ketidaktentuan ekonomi terutama pada tahun ini, 2025 dan seterusnya, Prof?
Satu soalan yang jauh ke depan. Kerana bagi saya, kata tadi, rakyat Malaysia semakin lebih bijak daripada dahulu untuk menguruskan kewangan mereka itu sendiri. Ya, mereka mampu melihat, mereka mahu dan mereka juga merasakan kerajaan juga telah bertindak proaktif dalam berbagai aspek. Contoh saya berikan pada bulan 6 yang lalu, apabila subsidi diesel disasarkan kepada mereka yang memerlukan saja di semenanjung Malaysia, ada berlaku, apa yang berlaku adalah ekonomi Malaysia domestik itu berjaya menyerap kenaikan itu. Ya, sekarang kita tak ada lagi dengar dari media-media, ya, dan kita pastinya pelbagai lagi aspek seperti penyalahgunaan oleh industri, penyeludupan ke luar negara sudah pun diturunkan, ya, dan itulah aspek utama. Jadi kalau rakyat Malaysia itu sendiri melihat proaktifnya kerajaan dalam membantu, dalam menyesuaikan, kerana kita tak boleh membiarkan memberikan subsidi seperti dahulu. Jadi kita pun kena pembaziran yang banyak berlaku, sehingga kan ia melebihi pada tahun 2022, tak salah saya, ia melebihi perbelanjaan pembangunan negara. Jadi wang itu boleh digunakan untuk memberikan bantuan yang terbaik. Jadi kita harus membuat satu ajakan paradigma. Dan rakyat Malaysia sendiri, saya merasakan mereka melihat, walaupun kita melalui satu fasa yang sukar, kenaikan harga kos sara hidup, saya pernah orang bercakap tentang kos sara hidup yang tinggi dan berbagai lagi, ya, mereka tak menafikan bahawa kalau kita pergi ke negara lain, ya, negara mana yang tak menghadapi seperti kita, mungkin kita ni alhamdulillah lebih baik dari mereka, dan inilah satu yang kita hargai sebenarnya apa yang ada di Malaysia itu sendiri, Nabilah.
Ya, kalau kita nak ambil juga daripada pengumuman Rabu lalu di Dewan Rakyat, Menteri Kewangan kedua ada menyatakan yang pengeluaran akaun fleksibel KWSP mencecah 12.07 bilion ringgit setakat 31 Disember 2024, dan ini melibatkan sebanyak 4.11 juta ahli yang berumur bawah 55 tahun. Jadi persoalannya, adakah cash in hands atau bantuan tunai masih lagi menjadi indikator penting kepada keyakinan perbelanjaan rakyat, Prof, dalam jangka masa 1 minit?
Selagi kita belum mempunyai satu mekanisme yang tepat, Nabilah, untuk memberikan subsidi bersasar, ya, kita tak mengenal adakah sama ada pendapatan kasar ataupun pendapatan bersih. Jadi kita tetap bergantung kepada pemberian seperti subsidi tunai, ya, ataupun cara lain, ya, sehinggalah kita menemui seperti kita akan diwawarkan padu, dan lepas itu kita akan berbagai lagi aspek. Ya, sekali lagi tak kenal mekanisme itu, jadi sekali itulah kita tak tahu. Jadi buat masa ini bagi saya subsidi secara tunai, bantuan tunai adalah yang terbaik, kerana pada rakyat itu dia boleh mengikut keperluan dia. Sehingga bagi saya tol bersasar pun sepatutnya diberikan secara bantuan tunai. Tak semua orang akan travel masa hari raya. Ada yang tinggal di bandar, tak pergi ke mana. Jadi mereka satu keluarga mesti tak memerlukan bantuan. Lebih baiklah kita bagi bantuan tunai kepada mereka.
Baik, jadi kuncinya adalah perancang kewangan anda untuk kita mengekalkan momentum keyakinan pengguna itu dalam jangka masa yang panjang. Jadi terima kasih diucapkan kepada Profesor Madya Dr. Aimi Zulhazmi Abdul Rashid, penganalisis ekonomi UniKL Business School, dan semua perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam semua platform digital Astro AWANI.
J'avais défendu l'idée que la République démocratique du Congo pouvait être un pays solution. Aujourd'hui, je suis fier de partager avec vous une réponse concrète à cette vision, le lancement de la plus grande réserve forestière tropicale du monde.
It's certainly one of the most ambitious programs in the world in terms of conserving nature, but not just any nature. That we're talking about the Congo Basin, which is of course a critical asset in terms of the whole addressing the climate crisis.
Cette initiative va bien au-delà de la simple conservation environnementale. Elle constitue une stratégie globale pour revitaliser notre économie, renforcer nos communautés locales et promouvoir une paix durable dans nos provinces orientales, longtemps touchées par la pauvreté, les conflits armés et l'instabilité.
When you bring significant amounts of electricity through the construction of hydroelectric plants that depend on the park's rivers, you create jobs because business develops once you've got energy. So it's a whole new way of doing conservation, and that doesn't involve imposing restrictions and regulations, but rather building economic incentives for people to protect the forest and actually to protect themselves. And so to build out the green economy, as it were, so small industry driven by clean energy and that's respectful of local communities, that's really based on their consent.
En exploitant la puissance de nos rivières et l'abondance de soleil qui baigne nos terres, nous construirons une infrastructure énergétique durable, capable d'alimenter nos communautés locales et nos peuples autochtones, ainsi que nos industries, sans nuire à notre environnement.
Segalanya menjadi pertaruhan di pusingan akhir NFL Challenge Cup. Dua pasukan, satu misi. Menempuh segala cabaran demi kegemilangan. Siapakah bakal dinobatkan sang juara? Sokonglah sepenuhnya demi Liga kita. NFL Challenge Cup secara langsung di Astro.
5 lelaki penghantar makanan didakwa di Mahkamah Magistrate Bangi atas tuduhan membunuh seorang pemandu kereta lelaki dalam satu kejadian.
4 sungai di sekitar kawasan perindustrian Pasir Gudang di Johor termasuk Sungai Kim Kim didapati tercemar dan berada pada tahap yang membimbangkan. Kerajaan sudah mulakan inisiatif untuk menggantikan kenderaan operasinya kepada kenderaan elektrik EV dalam skala kecil terlebih dahulu.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in economic analysis and future affairs. Now, today on Future Affairs, we're discussing the ASEAN higher education market. Now, ASEAN's education market is experiencing significant growth driven by a youthful demographic and increasing international student mobility. As of 2022, the region's youth population, aged between 15 to 34, stands at approximately 213 million, marking the largest cohort in ASEAN's history. Now, this demographic trend is expected to peak at just over 220 million by 2038, underscoring the escalating demand for higher education services. In 2023, Malaysia received nearly 27,000 applications from Chinese students, a substantial increase from about 12,000 in 2019. This surge is reflecting Malaysia's growing appeal as a study destination, attributed to factors such as affordability, quality education, and a welcoming environment. Now, as ASEAN Chair in 2025, Malaysia is poised to leverage its leadership role to further enhance regional educational collaboration. Niaga Spotlight today focuses on higher education's crucial role in boosting Malaysia and ASEAN competitiveness by fostering innovation, developing skilled human capital, and enhancing research capabilities. This is all essential, of course, for continued development of a future workforce with advanced knowledge and critical thinking skills, driving economic growth, attracting investments, and ensuring long-term sustainability and prosperity in a rapidly evolving and globalized economy. All of that said, joining me now live in the studios for this very interesting discussion, we have with us Shahril Sabaruddin, who is Director for Digital Marketing with Education Malaysia Global Services, EMGS, as well as Associate Professor Dr. Arpah Abu Bakar, Director with the Centre for International Affairs and Cooperation, CIAC, at University Utara Malaysia, UUM. A very good morning to the both of you. Welcome to the studios. How are you doing today?
You're fine, doing well.
Thank you. Fantastic. So let's get the discussion started. Shahril, if I could begin with you and asking you a little bit more about key strategies which Malaysia has actually been developing in the background to position itself as a regional hub, not just in the locality of our immediate neighbors, right, such as Indonesia and perhaps even China, for international students within ASEAN. What's the landscape looking like?
Thank you, Tehmina. So if I may, I'd like to answer that question in 5 different kind of prongs.
All right, fantastic. Sure, go for it.
Okay, first, Malaysia, we are adapting policy which are very nimble, that responds and are very adaptable to the current changes in, the global nuances, the global grand national, the global compendium of geopolitics, economy, and all those. So we are also adapting fast to it in terms of our visa processing times, in terms of our technological adaptation in visa processing, in terms of our warm and welcoming attributes of our visa regimes as well. So while some parts of the other countries all over the world are closing their door, we are actually welcoming a bit more. And there's a continuous discussion about moving away from top 4, which has always been United Kingdom, US, Australia, and all those, that now looks at Malaysia and to a larger extent Southeast Asia as a viable alternative to it. So that's one, policy. Policy nimbleness is key to
sure, and that's also actually reflecting global trends, whereby we're having actually those from the East looking east.
Definitely, yes. So looking east policy has gone on to steroids in that sense.
Basically.
Yes. And then secondly, in terms of our program design.
Right.
So there's a lot of universities that's done partnerships. We talk about transnational education. In Malaysia, apparently, the maturity and the model of transnational education has actually been kind of like accredited, have been acknowledged at least. I'd like to share a story that's been told to us by our CEO, Mr. Novi Tajuddin, when he was in Australia last time during APAI conference. He did say that while he was talking about Malaysia's transnational education ecosystem, even the Australians, part of the Big Four, actually were really impressed. They were captivated and mesmerized by Malaysia's maturity in terms of our transnational education model, just by virtue of what we are doing right now. So it means that essentially we are doing something right in that particular avenue. So all of this dual programming, twinning and all those, I think as what we are doing right now, the strategy works. You just need to make sure that we don't mess that one up, or we don't really, we have to just maintain momentum. Third is funding models. So of
exactly,
course,
because it also needs to be affordable enough, even though, of course, Malaysia does not necessarily have the strongest currency in the region, which makes it affordable enough.
True, but there's a study by Economic Times that says Malaysia, in average, the fee is around $6,000 across the board, compared to UK or United States. It could go up to 40,000. So you see how competitive that is. And then also our living costs, our index in terms of cost of living is very low compared to other countries, even within ASEAN. So coupling these two together doubles down the idea that Malaysia is not just affordable in terms of a destination for learning, but also we maintain top-notch quality standards. We have 6 universities now ranked top 200 in QS ranking. If we go all the way down to top 500, there's 8 universities in Malaysia. ASEAN region, there's 93 universities within that top 500. So that tells us that we do not compromise quality while affording affordability. It's not mutually exclusive in between affordability as well as excellence. So that's one. Fourth is hospitality.
I think nothing beats the Malaysian experience,
definitely.
right?
Malaysian
when it comes to diversity and also accessibility.
Top notch. Actually, if you scour the digital domain, you will see that some of the European people, they share their experience in Malaysia, saying that it changed their own worldview of the humanity experience when they come to Malaysia. Because by virtue of us just being us, we are very warm, accommodating and all those. For them, it's a big deal. So that is our element of soft power that we are projecting. EMJS is doing our part as well. We have a one of a kind. Nowhere else in the world has an international student arrival center at the first touch point of international students when they come to Malaysia, at the airport.
Right.
KLIA 1, KLIA 2. We have a center dedicated to handhold the student from the moment they land in Malaysia all the way to the university that they're supposed to
familiarize them from the get-go.
Definitely.
Well, I remember back in my day, of course, showing my age, 40, that, it used to be an international student center, but you had to get there at the university.
Yes,
right?
you're left alone once you arrive. We don't do that.
That's
we handhold you all the way. Even we have 4 lanes, 4 or 5, I don't remember the number, there are 4 distinct lanes for express lanes for students when they arrive after they finish the document processing. They can just exit without having to go through all the queuing process, the typical queuing process of the immigration. So we have dedicated lanes in KLIA 1. So these are the hospitality that we double down on top of our natural. But also when we look at numerical numbers in terms of what we are supposed to achieve or what we imagine happening, Malaysia also wants to assert leadership. Now we are the chairman of ASEAN. We would be talking later, maybe perhaps about the ASEAN exhibition forum.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for really setting the scene for us,
Yes,
Shahril. Right. May I ask you, Dr. Arpa, so tell us a little bit more in detail about the ASEAN Universities Exhibition and Forum 2025. It's first going to be happening and is scheduled for early next week. Everything that went into organizing this, as well as what are some of the highlights that people can look forward to for the higher education market?
All right, Tehmina. I studied Universities Education and Forum 2025, the short form AEF 2025.
Right.
It will be held on 24th and 25th February. It's just around the corner, and it will be held at Sunway Resort Hotel next week. Now, the AEF 2025, there are 2 main activities being done, which is the exhibitions and forum itself, and also the ASEAN Student Mobility Program. Now, the idea of having the AEF 2025 is to bring the ASEAN universities to showcase their programs, what they are going to offer to the ASEAN students. So when EMGS, Education Malaysia Global Services, come up with the idea of having AEF in Malaysia, University Utara Malaysia was thinking, instead of just having a supplier side at this country,
attitude and perspective,
why not we bring in the demand side as well?
Okay.
So that's where ASEAN Student Mobility Program comes together as one of the main activities under AEF 2025. So we started earlier. From 11, actually, we started the program with the students. University Utara Malaysia become the lead universities. But there are 12 other universities participating in this program. So it's a huge project at the national level in which we are bringing students from ASEAN to Malaysia. And at the same time, Education Malaysia Global Services brings the universities from ASEAN to Malaysia.
Exactly. So it's like an exchange. It's a two-way street, basically.
Yes, yes. So we are expecting 500 students from ASEAN coming in, and I think I can share with you a little bit of statistics.
Sure, please
so,
do.
yeah, next week with the exhibitions, we have 94 exhibitors already participating in AEF 2025, and we have 11 universities as scholarship providers. And the 500 mobility students comes from 95 ASEAN universities. That's also huge. And 13 host universities. We are expecting that there will be 15 partnerships, memorandum of understanding to be signed during this event as well. And we are expecting the Honorable Minister of Higher Education will also attend during the opening ceremony. And during the closing ceremony, we are expecting the Honorable Deputy Minister of Higher Education to attend as well. Now, looking at this project, we are seeing the fact that it aligns with Minister of Higher Education agenda on internationalization. And at the same time, we are looking at, as Malaysia become the chair of ASEAN, this project also aligned with the ASEAN Master Plan on people-to-people connectivity. So,
and starting it early on in life where, you know, you're still in the formative stage, especially in higher education. Thanks very much, Dr. Arpa. I think it's very interesting as well because already our latest statistics are showing us that up to 60% of Malaysia's international students come from the ASEAN region itself. Is there anything you're able to perhaps share with us with regards to ASEAN-related scholarships and initiatives that have been of interest?
Okay, during the AEF 2025, there will be an announcement of the scholarship providers. There will be a platform. I think Syahrir has a better way to tell this information. But I think it's a good effort at the national level or the ASEAN level to bring in the scholarship providers so that students can have access to all these scholarship providers. So the platform itself will provide information on who are the providers and students can have easy access.
Absolutely. And there's already the existing ASEAN University Network or AUN. Perhaps that could even help facilitate student mobility further. Thanks, Dr. Arpa. Moving back into asking you, Syahrir. So we were talking about ASEAN. So tell me a little more about what the perspective has been. Of course, we're already almost halfway through the first quarter of the year, but what does the rest of 2025 look like for Malaysia, especially capitalizing for the higher education market with all the opportunity that ASEAN brings and actually carrying the momentum, not just for this year, but till the next round when we get to chair ASEAN, another 10 years, right?
Yeah. I think one of the core elements that we need to talk about when answering specifically this question is actually partnership.
Yes.
So this AEF that is going to happen soon is a strategic leeway for us to actually manage partnership in terms of basically it's an avenue where we have a convergence of intellectual capital across ASEAN countries. Just now, Dr. Arpa has mentioned well that there's 95 universities participating in several avenues. There's 500 international students from 56 universities across ASEAN. There's a lot of memorandum of understanding. That's a confluence of intellectual capital and then an avenue for partnership to actually happen. But it's also important because just now we also talked a bit about scholarship, right? So we are going to announce the launching of an online portal that actually aggregates all of the scholarship providers across ASEAN countries in one single portal. So imagine this. When you're in Vietnam, you want to study somewhere, you have your own academic, social profile and all those. This portal would kind of automatically map you to whatever are the available scholarships across the ASEAN region. So it facilitates ASEAN students' mobility by that virtue. But ultimately, we can scale that one up because when there's mobility of students, because we break down the barrier of economic attainment through scholarships and this kind of partnerships, we can also then push for a standardization of accreditation. because universities in Malaysia are not necessarily recognized in Thailand.
Very true,
Not,
or vice versa.
Yeah, vice
as
versa.
Well. Yeah.
So there is something that's been worked on within the ASEAN Secretariat to recognize this, to harmonize this, an MQA for ASEAN, if we can actually term it a bit more. Yeah.
If I can ask you, expanding on that thought process, the fact that we have already been traditionally attracting a lot of international students from China, what could we perhaps replicate the process for recognition that we have already experienced in doing with China to ensure that their students are actually coming here?
That's pretty much exactly what we intend to actually do, because we don't just look at numbers. We are actually focusing a lot on quality of students. So quality of students, and then when we talk about mobility, we also want to facilitate not just student mobility, but also lecturer mobility. The entire
Very interesting, the whole
ecosystem
itself,
the
right?
lecturers, the technology, the pedagogy, so that we can then minimize the gaps that exist within the universities, within the ASEAN countries. So when that happens, another level is this, that industrial partnerships with the academia that nexus between the industry and academia can actually then be streamlined much more effectively. So our degree could be recognized by Tesla in another country, for example, within the ASEAN region, when all of this has kind of like been standardized and when the mobility has actually been achieved. So that's why I think I also would like to kind of like emphasize that Malaysia has always been serious in making sure that all of this idealism is not just an idea on paper. It doesn't just look good as an idea.
Not just a blueprint, but it translates.
Yes, it translates. That's why 10 years ago, when Malaysia was also
ASEAN
the chair,
chair.
the ASEAN chair, we came up with the Kuala Lumpur Declaration of Higher
right.
Education, focusing a lot on TVET at that time. 10 years has passed. I think we're going to renew that commitment. We're going to put in a lot more, things that are related to disruptive technologies and also the facilitation of people-to-people movement in this particular perspective. I hope, this is my personal hope, that would be integrated into the new declaration that's perhaps going to be launched within this time when Malaysia is actually the chair.
Absolutely, and actually, setting the tone for the next 10 years. So, Dr. Arpa, before we move into a quick break, could you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on what measures perhaps educational institutions can take to sustain the momentum for the ASMP beyond 2025?
Shahri has touched a little bit on harmonizations of the education system across ASEAN.
That's
I
right.
think there's a lot of efforts being done. You also mentioned about ASEAN University Network. So under ASEAN University Network, there are 17, I think now maybe it becomes already 21 network that combined or group ASEAN universities to work into some themes that we need to deep dive how we can harmonize those themes. And the two that I can highlight here is ASEAN University Network Quality Assurance and ASEAN Credit Transfer System. So there are two thematic networks that is very active looking at how we can harmonize the education system. Now, if universities in the ASEAN region can go for ASEAN University Network certification programs. Now, if you go under the certification programs, your curriculum are being certified. So it means that you can have it across ASEAN countries. Of course, there are universities, even University of Utara Malaysia, we go for international accreditation such as AACSB, but that's at a global level. But the effort at the ASEAN region itself under AUN certification programs, I think that's an effort that should be applauded, and that will also provide opportunities for younger universities to start looking at accreditations and all this credit transfer system. So looking at the long time, the ASEAN student mobility programs is like a way to bring in as many as ASEAN students to cross the countries. Every year, all the universities in ASEAN has their own mobility program, but these major projects actually provide more opportunities, more attractiveness in terms of what Malaysia can offer and what ASEAN can offer. Because previously, if you just come, it's one-to-one, university to university mobility exchange program.
Very true. So it was sort of siloed in a sense, even though it was exclusively in the higher education market.
Right, right. So this one, you have the opportunities to not only know one other 12 other universities, but you have the opportunity to join in AER, which is on the 24th, on the 25th February, in which there are 84, how many just now? the
Close to
exhibitors,
100, let's say.
So you can see other universities during the exhibition. So the opportunity is huge for the student as well, for them to get to know each other, as well as to get to know other universities. So we are hoping that this is not going to be their first time or the last time. They will come again, perhaps continuing their master's studies here. And it will also attract more international students to Malaysia.
Exactly, and I also appreciated the fact that we're talking now also about the fact that it's about the faculty itself, and there is possibility for perhaps academic research and innovative transfer when it comes to programs and projects as well, all of which can lead into much more specialized sectors. We'll go more into detail into all of that in just a little bit, but thanks so much for the discussion so far, Dr. Arpa, as well as Shahril. Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Niaga Spotlight, speaking about tapping ASEAN's higher education market.
Etihad bersedia menempuk badai. The Reds dengan cita untuk terus mendominasi. Tetapi City ada misi untuk menggagalkan impian mereka. Jatuh bangun menanti sang gegasi. Segalanya bakal terungkai secara langsung. Manchester City menentang Liverpool di Premier League. Eksklusif di Astro.
Geng Ngaji.
Jom sertai mereka mendalami dan memperbaiki bacaan Al-Quran.
Bayati ni sifat dia macam mana?
Bayati ni digunakan pada permulaan ayat dan penutup lah.
Qaf di pangkal lidah dekat dengan anak tekak kan?
Monza! Geng Ngaji musim ke-6, 2 hingga 30 Mac, 6 petang. Indahnya lain macam bersama Astro Oasis dan Astro Go.
Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight, still with me, Tehmina, Kaoosji, and today we are discussing tapping ASEAN's higher education market. Right, Shahril, moving back into the discussion, tell me more about how Malaysia intends to utilize our cultural, linguistic diversity in order to actually create an ecosystem which not only attracts educational environment as well as the international students, but these are part of the long-term goals for student recruitment. I'd appreciate any numbers you have as well to help us appreciate what the value actually is of every student who comes in.
Okay. So you see, Malaysia is a model that thrives in the face of multiculturalism. There's no other country, I think, in the world that actually has the kind of microcosm of the world that we exist in terms of our cultural and linguistic appeal.
Sure.
So if you look at it, if I can just expand the worldview a bit, China and India are the biggest population in the world right now. China is around 1.4 billion, India is 1.4, slightly ahead of China right now. In 2050, that number would be 1.7 billion for India, 1.3 billion for China. That's the projected population numbers. Still, they're going to dominate the world, basically, in terms of... But the only country that they can feel cultural proximity is Malaysia. Because we have,
elements,
we have elements of their culture by virtue of us being the intersection of the west and east waterways of the world. So there's that kind of cultural proximity with the two largest population in the world right now. On top of that, Middle East countries, for example, Middle East and some part of North Africa that are Muslim-dominated and also Arabic-speaking countries, they can relate to Malaysia because we are very much Muslim-friendly. So
the level of comfort
is unparalleled. And then they will feel like Malaysia is a model of Muslim modernity in that sense. True to Central Asia as well. So these are some of our, by default of how we are right now, without doing anything, we are already appeal in that sense. Japan, for example, they have this Lukis policy that's very, we have our Lukis policy to Japan that has actually resonated with their population quite sentimentally. So they have that kind of, sentimental attachment to Malaysia in that sense. Indonesia, of course, we are within the whole ASEAN archipelago, I think, is already cultural has that kind of cultural proximity. So by virtue of not doing anything, just by existing, we already have that kind of cultural appeal, and our linguistic. Of course, when people are exposed to our part of the world, they gain a lot more cultural nuances that gives every student a leg up in the employment potential. There's a number. I can't find, for the life of me, I can't remember which is the publication. I've been trying to look for it, but I'm quite positive and certain that there's a statistic that tells us 93% of employers are willing to give a lot more opportunities for people who have actually exposed themselves to cultural nuances, especially in Southeast Asia. So these are things that we are looking at. September 2024, Economic Times, I think, came out with an article that says specifically China is interested to work together with Southeast Asia countries, specifically countries that has this kind of microcosm of the world, in areas of higher education. So all of these just already gives us one foot in the door into the global market. But on top of that, right, we also have a global, a far-reaching global alumni. You know, we have around almost 200,000 network of alumni.
That's right. So it's not only about looking forward, but also looking to the past and trying to activate those networks.
Exactly. So they talk, and some of them, they know more about Malaysia than us. I mean, do you know that?
So they really made the best of their time here, going exploring and to places.
And we don't appreciate, I mean, I'm not saying that all of us don't. We put this under the radar. But do you know curry puff? That food?
Sure.
Curry puff is very nice. There's a curry puff is ranked by Taste Atlas as number 4 out of 100 tastiest pastries in the world.
Okay,
there's 100.
I didn't know that as well.
There's 100.
Good to know.
Curry puff number 4.
Okay,
Can you imagine? We never cared about that so much. This much it's enough doing curry puff, number 4 in the world. But on top of that, we are the 10th most peaceful country in the world. We are the 5th country with, I mean, the 5th happiest country in the world. We are the top Muslim-friendly destination. We are 24th. We have Kuala Lumpur is the 24th best student city in the world. We are the 25th country for expat living by HSBC. All of these are things that have won global accolades that we need to really dig deep, understand and appreciate a lot more, because just by living and existing, we have real global appeal.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what I'm really hearing about is that we're looking at a much more diverse outlook when it comes to student mobility beyond just them spending the university years here. Thanks for that, Shahril. Dr. Arpa, if I could dig deeper now into how the student mobility program actually aligns with ASEAN's longer-term vision. And this is, of course, to build a connected, skilled and competitive workforce through higher education. We are highly digitized. The future of education is already here, right? And sometimes there tends to be a little bit of a perspective that perhaps young people are not quite as interested to continue higher education. Let's combat that perspective.
Yes, student mobility program is actually one of the main agenda in terms of internationalization of higher education itself. So all universities actually has a student mobility program. Sometimes we call it student exchange program. Some universities call it study abroad program. So it's a similar thing. And it has been going on for many, many years, but I guess students or potential students may not be aware that when they go to perhaps University Utara Malaysia, but they actually have a chance to go to France or they have a chance to go to Indonesia. So this opportunity...
And vice versa as well,
yes,
right?
Yes,
because that's why you, in a sense, run into people on campus who might be friends and scholars from France, from wherever else.
Yes, yeah. Internationalization itself is not the fact that you have to go overseas. You can also experience that locally. At the local universities itself. So I guess this fact has not been highlighted as much, and potential students or even parents are not aware of this. The fact that if you go to local universities, you're paying much lower fees, but the students will still have the opportunities to have global exposure. So I think this fact should be highlighted more. I guess awareness should be there. And universities itself has a lot of innovations going in higher education industries itself. The curriculum that universities offers, knowledge is only actually one of the things that we are doing. There's a lot of other things that higher educations are doing. Skills transfers. We are not teaching the knowledge itself. We teach how do you get the knowledge that you want.
Right.
So there's a lot of other skills that that students can learn when they go to higher education institutions. And the fact that there'll be more activities outside the classroom, of course, it can be an online activities, but mobility program is one of the things that we are doing to make sure that you are not only learning conventionally in class, there's a lot of other things that you are doing, the skills that you will gain. And in terms of curriculum itself, there's a lot of innovation. One thing perhaps I can highlight is professional certification programs. Accounting program especially, if you go to local universities, you will graduate not only with some credit transfers to the professional certification programs, some universities even provide full certification programs. So you graduate with a degree in accounting and at the same time you have ACCA.
Right.
So,
very different from even something basically 5 years ago, right?
Right. And currently there's a lot of things like micro-credentials, the opportunities for non-traditional students to learn at their own pace, which they don't have to go, register at university and stay for 4 years. Those are gone days. You can learn at your own ways. And students can also take a break during their studies. So things are getting really different now. And I believe that the things that we are doing at the universities will provide or will equip students with the skill for the future. Because we are not looking at training the current talent. We are looking at providing the skill that the current talent should have so that they can equip themselves or navigate what they should be expecting in the future.
Exactly. And what I'm hearing a lot of, Dr. Arpa, from what you've just shared with us, is the fact that, of course, we kind of tend to assume higher education market is just undergraduates. But there are people who are full adults who may be coming here for their masters, for their PhD. One area that I was actually thinking of, especially given University of Uttara's, expertise and location, etc. Climate change, environmental issues are of great interest to most young people, especially around ASEAN, given the fact that, we are increasingly being impacted by this. So there could also be opportunities for not only research, but also proper collaboration and maybe even full programs that qualify higher education students in this market.
Oh, you actually hit the point. The fact that in the universities itself, we are not training the students we are not developing only the students to develop themselves as future leaders. We are also telling them, you must contribute to the society. So they are equipped with the knowledge, but the knowledge is not for themselves. It's for them to develop the communities around them. So of course, environmental issues is one of the issues, not only for the interest of the students, but for us as well, for the communities, for the countries. So SDG has been embedded in curriculums. I'm sure all universities are doing that at the moment.
That's right.
Yeah, in fact, the ASEAN Student Mobility Program, we use SDG as the key items that they need to delve into. Under the ASEAN Student Mobility Program, we have 2 competitions that we did. One is ASEAN Student Young Talent Speaker Contest, in which they have to speak on SDG as well.
Right,
and
so incorporating it early on.
Yes, and then when they go to the host universities, the 12 host universities, they will be put into groups. We make sure that there are diversities in the group, and then they have to work together, solving ASEAN issues. Using SDG as well. So they are working on putting their brains together on the same table, try to work. Those are the many skills that...
And I'm actually thinking of how many opportunities there are, because we, of course, cover quite often the green economy, the blue economy, etc. Sustainability, which is a part of every public listed company, not just in Malaysia, but around ASEAN, right?
Right, so and understanding each other's issues at the younger age. I believe this is huge impact that we're going to develop. And I hope that it will happen again and again, and we can do this a lot more.
Exactly, and this is just the start of it all. So, Shahril, going back into perhaps digging a little bit deeper, but let's now cast the lens a little wider than ASEAN, since we're already here. Now, what opportunities is Malaysia seeing for emerging international markets? We were talking about Africa, the Middle East a little. Let's look at South Asia in particular. South Asia also, of course, for example, we've got neighbors like Vietnam, Singapore. Would we also be looking at exploring how to get those from more competitive higher education markets to come to Malaysia to study, and vice versa?
Okay, well, opportunities emerge through challenges that are actually existing in the global outlook right now. With US's increasingly closed-door policies, Australians cap in terms of how many students that they get.
That's right, and getting a lot harsher with the doling of student visas.
And we are seeing this, I mean, US is always the trendsetter, right? So the wind of change might blow
the domino
from
effect,
there.
as
yes,
we
that's
say.
right.
Yeah.
So while Malaysia and to a larger extent Southeast Asia maintains their open door and warm welcoming policy, we can take advantage of that kind of threat. But if we look at it, if we kind of like put a spotlight on different kind of regions and we talk specifically on strategy, Africa is a very promising market.
Okay.
Africa, as it is right now, from the population, 60% of people in Africa are aged 0 to and are 25 years old below. It's a very youthful market over there in Africa. In 2050, that number might climb up to 65%. There's a lot of this market of youth in Africa.
Incredible.
And their population is set to double. So we need to really specifically delve into the demographic makeup, the economic challenges, the internet penetration rate over there, how we can actually then,
be visible over there.
Be visible.
Yeah.
The awareness campaigns need to be actually done. We have data to help support our marketing activities in specific countries. Sometimes we treat this as a region, like Africa. Some of them we look at it on a country-specific kind of lens. On top of that, like Middle East and North Africa, we clump them together as MENA because of in virtue of Muslim dominance and then also their Arabic-speaking countries. So we bespoke our strategies to kind of like fit the
tailored
nuances.
approaches.
Yeah, that's right. So it has to be something that suits the audience and the demographic. But the appeal that we have, Doctor, in Malaysia is actually we also are predominantly English-speaking. 70% of our courses are taught in English. So it makes that kind of language barrier a bit more easier for them to overcome and then also to see Malaysia as viable as a destination. If we look at South Asia is like Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. India is, of course, big market. Bangladesh last time, we saw a decrease in terms of student application, but it's due to the political uncertainty over there. And last year, there was this whole thing about...
Yes, a whole changeover of government. And
change of government. So we're looking at an influx this year, compounding from last year's miss and then also this year's new application. So Bangladesh is going to be huge. The question is then, are we able to then to fit that kind of capacity because we are seeing this influx is going to be needed. And then also our process to enable proper vetting so that we can ensure that quality students are the only one accepted to Malaysia. So, that is one thing that we are looking at. And Central Asia, similarly to MENA, they're also looking at Malaysia as a model Muslim country, a modern Muslim country. So it's driven by a largely youthful workforce, youthful administration. So there's a huge generation gap there, but the youthful demographics are very in tune to what's happening in Malaysia. And that is evident in the application numbers. Last year alone, Central Asia had an increase of up to almost 80% of application numbers. Kazakhstan alone, up to almost 150% increase of student application, means the interest is there. We have a significant market voice.
I have to agree with that.
Yes, definitely. And these are people who are very much qualified to study. They are good in terms of their command of English, and then they are really seeking for career advancement. But on top of that, right, ASEAN is something that we need to look at. ASEAN, if we just look at Malaysia, Malaysia is like number 33, 34 in terms of size of economy in the world.
Correct.
If we blow up and zoom out to ASEAN, then
look at all 10 countries, yes.
We become number 5 in terms of the size of economy.
And we're close to 1 billion people, just about 200 million shy.
680 million right now. You said just now in your opening statement, 213 million youth up to age of 35. That's what, 30-something% of the population. So we are a dynamic youth market here in ASEAN. The problem is this, that even though we look at a number encouraging from ASEAN countries, total percentage of mobility of students within ASEAN countries is only 9.4%. So there's huge opportunities that we need to fill up in terms of the gap within ASEAN first. We sort out the mobility in ASEAN through the means that I perhaps mentioned before, the harmonization of qualification and all those. And also, if we can expand our graduate visa program to accommodate a lot of ASEAN countries, I believe that then we can actually tap that huge market that ASEAN has ready for us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Shahril. So Dr. Arpa.
Can I add on a point on that? I guess awareness on what we are offering is not there yet. So AEF is definitely one of the things that will promote that. In fact, in Malaysia, we have international branch campus. The branding is there. You don't have to go to UK to go to Harriet Ward. You can study here, come to Malaysia and access a UK university's education program. So I think that's a huge opportunity there. But I think the awareness may not be there yet. There's a lot to be done on our side, actually. Yeah.
If I can double down on that again.
Absolutely. Yes.
You see, since its inception in 1967, if I'm getting my facts right, ASEAN has never done anything to this effect in terms of higher education. There's no AEF before this. This is the first time we're doing it, and hopefully this will become a staple program in ASEAN in the future.
ASEAN host countries, right?
Whoever becomes the chairman after Malaysia will have no choice but to actually make this happen again in their country, because we have actually started it. So that's the leadership position that we are doing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So some last thoughts, Dr. Arpa, perhaps on how we can ensure that this ASEAN student mobility and boosting international engagement actually continues, because as Shahril just mentioned, it doesn't even reach 10%. So plenty of opportunity.
Yes. Looking at the higher education's landscape in Malaysia itself, huge number of universities that receive highly ranked under QS World Ranking or THA World Ranking. So for me, I believe that the effort from the universities itself, among the universities, to increase the partnership between universities. In fact, now if we do student exchange programs, students that come to our universities are waived from the tuition fees. So it provides them opportunity. I mean, they don't have to get even a scholarship, but they don't have to pay the tuition fee for a one-semester study program in Malaysia. Right. So this student mobility program is, I think, a core in terms of our business, in terms of partnership. But what I want to say is that the fact that when you come to Malaysia, you have access to other countries as well. With our ranking at the moment, we have a huge number of partnership to our European countries or US countries as well, to the top universities. So for example, at University Utara Malaysia, you can come and take our program, do 2 years at our program, and third year you can go to UK universities, get a degree there as well. It's a transfer program. So you are paying University Utara Malaysia tuition fee. It's a lot cheaper. So it can be an access to other universities as well. And we are working a lot on this landscape as well, even between ASEAN universities. So you can come to Malaysia, and then you can go to Indonesia, and you get 2 degrees.
Fantastic. Dr. Arpa, as well as Shahril, it's been such an interesting discussion. Plenty of opportunity ahead. And of course, encouraging everyone to attend AEF 2025.
Definitely.
Yes. Well, that's all we have time for today on Niaga Spotlight with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. We'll see you next Friday with more business analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead.